Hey, Cigar Craig here tonight. Got a special guest. I'm going to bring him right in, and we're going to talk about some neat projects he's working on. Here he is. Oops. There
And
he
there
is.
it is. How are you?
Marvin, how are you?
Eric, I'm
It's
going
been
to
a
light
long
up.
time. Marvin Samel, formerly of one of the founders of Drew Estate, and currently a big-time Hollywood movie producer.
Well, I don't know how Hollywood I am, but yes, I'm now a film producer.
That's awesome. Like I said, I had a chance to see the movie and thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not. I enjoyed it watching it. Obviously, I have a personal connection to it because I've known you for many years, so that made it kind of special to watch. And my first big question is, you had a star-studded cast. I mean, Abe Dababneh, Jeff Jeff Borshowitz, Christian Aroa. How'd you get those guys?
Yeah, fuck Judd Hirsch, Carol Kane, and Sean Hatt. Let's start with the really important people. So, um, there's a first of all, it's great to see you again, Craig. It's been a while since we first met
Absolutely.
at the Wooden Indian all those many years ago.
Yeah, 2009.
Wow. And so since uh, selling Drew Estate, so I sold my cigar company, and my wife Netta was pregnant with our
Hmm.
twin daughters during the course of the sale,
Right?
and they were born a few months later. Should have been the happiest time of my family's lives.
Sure.
2 months after the birth of my daughters, my mother, Fella Samel, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Hmm. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. And the guilt was just overwhelming because I knew something was wrong. A
Sure.
very close friend of mine, who Eric Espinosa,
Hmm.
his wife Susie worked in a high-end boutique at the Aventura Mall in Florida. My mom
Okay.
would go walking every day, and they would have lunch every day together.
Oh, neat.
Eric calls me for a sit down one day and says, "Listen, man, I hate to say this, but your mom is getting lost in the mall."
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, and Susie was kind of emotional at that point.
Sure.
And I brought it up to my dad. What are you talking about? She's brick made from stone. My dad's from the old country.
Sure.
And I couldn't get through to him that something's wrong with mom. And meanwhile, I've got a wife on bed rest with a very difficult pregnancy. I'm in the middle of selling Drew Estate.
Right.
I, I said, you know what? I can only handle so much.
Sure.
And as soon as my kids were born, my main focus was my mom and
Hmm.
making sure. And when the diagnosis came, Craig, it was just devastating. And
Absolutely.
to cope, I started writing down the stories that I would tell hosting cigar events all over the country, all over the world.
Right.
And, look, years ago, I realized early on that there's almost, for most people, not the cigar geeks like you, no
Right.
offense, but to the average person who comes to a cigar event, there's only so much that you can do to hold their attention when you're
Sure.
talking about the wrapper, binder and filler of your tobacco.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Let me start telling some stories. I can spin a yarn. And I had endless material about my dad.
Right.
So I started writing down the stories that I would tell hosting cigar events. After about 3, 4 months, I took a step back and I felt there was something cinematic about the characters here. So one day I'm coming off a plane and I call my dad. I was coming back. I was literally coming off of a plane from Nicaragua. And I call my dad, and all I hear is,
Right.
his 20-year-old flip phone finally died on him, tied together with electrical tape, tin foil for an antenna. And I said, Dad, that's it. I'm taking you to get an iPhone. Well, we go to the Apple store in Aventura. He gets handed an iPhone. The first thing he says is, "What is this? Where are the buttons?"
Yeah.
So I realize I'm in trouble here. And Apple had a program at the time where you can take private lessons from the Genius Bar, one-on-one, and then you graduate after 2-3 lessons to beginner for iPhone group lessons.
Nice.
2-3 months later, Mordecai's clocking 6 lessons a week. So I go, what's going on here? I sneak up on him. And there I see my father holding court with all these young men and women at the Genius Bar, who he's now calling the Einsteins. And one minute he's telling them a story that's making them laugh. Another minute, I see a tear forming in this girl's eye. And my dad's had a very, very difficult life, but he's never lost his sense of humor. Holocaust survivor, orphaned in Siberia.
Right.
Real tough life.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? This is it. This is the vehicle where my stories actually can become a screenplay of this relationship between a young girl from a completely different background who teaches Mordecai how to use the iPhone, and he's telling her the story of his life.
Right.
And thus, Mordecai was born. And yeah, and look, I don't know how far you want to get into this, because but hold on.
Oh, I got questions. I definitely got some questions.
You know what? First of all, are 4-letter words allowed, or you edit that out of your?
Oh no, good.
Okay.
We're smoking cigars, so it's going to be kind of restricted, right?
To see if we're PG rated or not, but
yeah,
good.
We're good.
Okay, so shoot away, Craig. I'm here.
Okay. So, one, I just want to mention I found that situation kind of relatable because I have an aging mother who has her flip phone, and I can't get her onto an iPhone. I can't even discuss it with her. She just doesn't want anything to do with learning anything new. So I found that very relatable. So I guess, the cigar geek in me saw some continuity things, maybe some artistic license, I guess, with the timeline and the selling your company, before having product ready. So that was obviously cigar geeks are going to pick up on that. People who know your story.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd like to, if possible, not give away any spoiler alerts, but I can give enough color to the character of Marvin and how he relates to the real me and what was real, what wasn't. It's based on fact, but I can start with saying that my original draft of the film was actually much closer to what really happened, because truthfully, it was really my diary of what I was going through the sale of Drew Estate.
Right.
And my producer, Dahlia Heyman, gave me some good advice. And she said, look, right now, to the rest of America, the way you depict Marvin, he's a rich man just getting richer.
Right.
He's a guy who owns a massive company that is about to sell it. And, can you channel some more aspect of Marvin having something really to risk? So what I did was I reached back to an earlier time where the struggle was real, where if a few things didn't happen, the lights would have been shut off.
Right.
So
Sure.
really the Marvin in the film is kind of like a Marvin from 2002, 2003, where
That's the way I took it. Yeah.
through the genesis of our company, we were growing, we were becoming established, but it was still, a daily struggle to keep the lights on, to pay our workers, to continue growing, and that's the time frame that
Hmm.
I hearken back to, and it's emblazoned in my soul that those days.
Sure. Sure.
And
So, I mean, you kind of already addressed the question of how long you'd been thinking about doing this. Obviously, it's kind of started around 2014. The idea.
it actually started earlier.
I did it. Okay.
Um, the very first time I really thought about a story about my own family, um, I was watching a film with Jonathan's parents, Gary and Esther Sand,
Hmm.
called Everything is Illuminated. And it's based on a true story by an author. His name is Jonathan Safran Foer. And it's the book was great. And then the movie comes out. I watch it with them. And it stars Elijah Wood. It's directed by Liev Schreiber in his only directorial effort, which he did an amazing job. And after the film was over, it's about this young man who goes on a quest to find the origin of his grandparents' story in the Ukraine. And the movie's over, and Esther goes, Marvin, you should write a movie about your family. I'm like, nah, Esther, And then I thought about it, but you know what? I'm running a company. My entire soul is invested in the company, and there was no time for it. And then I went on a trip to Poland to visit my father's hometown, Jano Podlowski, Poland. And I went with my dad, his older brother, 3 years older, Avram, and my cousin Doron. And we met a woman who at the time in 2008 was 97 years old. And
Hmm.
she was friends with my grandmother and her two sisters. And she told us what happened to her two sisters,
Hmm.
my great aunts,
Sure.
my father's aunts. And their families were rounded up into a pen in Jano Podlowski. There was a secret pact made between Hitler and Stalin where all the Jews of Eastern Poland were sent to the West, eventually sent to concentration camps. And most of them, including my family, we found out the very next day in the Hall of Records in Warsaw, they were sent to Treblinka,
Hmm.
never to be heard from. Treblinka was not a concentration camp.
Right.
It was a death camp.
Right.
And even though I never met these people, it hit here.
Well, that resonates. Sure.
And when I started writing the stories of my dad, yes, they were stories of comedy because my dad's a character. But I
Mhm.
started integrating his past, which is a story of a lot of pain, suffering, perseverance. He lived through some of the most challenging times in history.
Absolutely.
And he came out. And you meet him today, he's 87 years old. The first thing he wants to do is tell a joke.
Yeah.
So, and I think you've met my dad.
I don't recall if I have.
Nope.
Maybe at one of the trade shows. I
So-
don't know.
So that's how far this kind of goes back.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I started really putting pen to paper that I felt that there was something there. And at one
Mhm.
point, I had like 40, 50 pages of just stories. And I had joined a board of directors of a cutting edge technology company. One of the other board members, he is a retired colonel who spent 3 years at the Hanoi Hilton with John McCain.
Mhm.
And I gave him my stories. And without my permission, he took my stories and sent them to an Academy Award winning filmmaker.
Hmm.
And I called him, I go, Colonel, did you take my stories? He goes, oh yeah, I gave them to so-and-so. I go, what? How can you do this? What are you talking about? These aren't, like, it's not a finished script. You
Right.
want to quit your nannying, or you want to listen to what he had to say? Yes, sir. He told me to tell you that there's something there. Keep writing.
Nice.
That gave me the confidence to go out and bring on a script doctor. I needed someone who understood form and function of writing a script.
Right.
And after a 1-year search through happenstance, I met a gentleman. His name is Rudy Gaines. Rudy has ghostwritten an Academy Award nominated screenplay. And somehow I met him, and he read my stories and said, yeah, I'd love to come on board. I believe in giving credit where credit's due. He's on the poster, you know, and we wrote the script. And now I need to go find a producer. You know, where the hell is a cigar maker going to find a film producer?
Right.
So through happenstance, a buddy of mine at my local cigar shop in Boca Raton introduces me to producer Dahlia Heyman. And Dahlia's made a number of films, feature films, documentaries. And she came on board as my producer. She brought on Alan Bain as my executive producer, also an award-winning filmmaker. They brought on casting director Avi Kaufman. If you want to make a film, first thing you need is a script. Second thing you need to attach actors who are saying, I'll make this film. I'll be in this film. So you need a casting director. Well, Avi Kaufman has podiumed more Oscar winners than anyone in history.
Wow.
So I meet with her in Manhattan, and she asks me, who would you like to portray your father, Mordecai?
It's leading right into my next question. Go ahead.
I can only think of one person who's both cantankerous enough and lovable enough at the same time to portray my dad. And that's Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah.
And he said, all right, the process is we're gonna send the script out to him first. And we're gonna pick 10 different potential Mordecais. And if he says yes, great. If not, we'll just go down the line. So
Right.
pick these 10 Mordecais. You guys can all imagine who they are. They're contemporaries of Judd Hirsch. A week later, I get a phone call. Judd loves the script. He wants to meet with you. So the meet is set at his favorite pizza shop, Nick's Pizza, on 93rd and 2nd in Manhattan. I show up an hour early. Want to scope the place out.
Right.
I pay the kid off that works there, pay him off to reserve the back room just to us. And on a Sunday afternoon, over a pepperoni pie and a couple of bottles of wine, we're talking.
Nice.
So now allow me to digress and backtrack. We were searching for a director, and we had sent it out to a number of well-known directors who passed on the project. So I was going to send it to this Academy Award-winning director. He'd read my stories, so Dahlia and Alan call me up, and they say, don't send it to him. We found your director. Who? You. Get the fuck out of here. I've never been on a film set before. I'm a cigar maker. You want me to direct this movie? And they said, Marvin, you're the only one who can direct this movie. It's so personal. It's your diary that if you give this to this director, he's a studio director. They're going to buy your script, and that's it. You go buy it. You're gone.
Yeah.
And I go,
no control, no say so. Yeah.
So
and it turns into something different.
So Craig, I was very naive, and I go, what do you mean? They're not going to let me in the editing room? And they just laughed. And I said, oh no. I go, let me think about it. And I thought about it, and I ended up downloading Masterclass.
Okay. Yep.
I start watching a class by Martin Scorsese. I don't know if you call it arrogance, belief in myself. I don't know what you call it, but something made me feel like I can do this. I've always been a storyteller, and the heart of the filmmaker is you got to be a good storyteller. You need to be able to draw your audience in. What do you got? A bird flying around?
The dogs in and out, and the
Oh,
cats
okay.
in. Sorry.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
I apologize.
No worries, Chris. So I took a week to think about it. I go, you know what? If the two of you promise that you'll be at my side, so I'm not literally on set feeling, exposed, I'm in. And they were. They were on set every single day. They were with me through every single editing cut of my film. And I was really lucky. I had an incredible team. So now I'm the director of the film.
Nice.
And Judd is talking to me about my vision for the film. And after, I don't know, 2 hours of conversation, he goes, so who's going to direct this thing? He called it this thing. I am, Judd. You? What have you directed? Judd, I've never been on a film set, but I know these characters. I've got a great team around me. And with your help, we're going to bring Mordecai to life. I know you can do it. And together we can do it. So I put my hand out. I go, what do you say? And he's looking at my hand. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at his hand. Nothing's happening. Let me think about it, he said. Judd, with all due respect, this is a one-time offer. And he looks at me as if, is this kid serious? And I ain't no kid, but to Judd, I am.
Yeah.
And I said, Judd, I started writing this in 2015. It's now 2019. And I promised my mother I would make this film while she was alive. And my mother is dying. So with all due respect, you're my first choice. You ain't my only choice.
Right.
So are you in or are you out? And I knew this is one of these moments in life that determine the path you're going to be going on.
And you're sitting there playing hardball with Judd Hirsch.
Not hardball. I was being realistic. Enough is enough. I didn't have time to fuck around.
Right.
I mean, no offense. I wasn't enamored with the fact that this is Judd Hirsch standing in front of me. I was trying to make good on my promise to my mother.
Sure.
That's what meant the most to me.
Okay, yeah.
So he looked at me for what felt like an eternity. And he shook my hand.
Nice. Wow.
And we were standing at the time. We sit back down. So, who do you have for fella? Well, I knew you would not take no for an answer, Judd. So I was going to wait until we had this conversation before going out and casting fella. What do you think of Carol Kane? His eyes and his whole body just started glowing.
Nice.
And he started, a big smile opens up and he goes, I love it. And we had a movie to make.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And then, so what led to Sean Astin coming on board? to play
Well,
you.
what's interesting is, in the film, Sean is the straight guy
Mm-hmm.
to Mordecai, who's, driving him nuts. So I needed someone who could be reserved while not being flat,
Mm-hmm.
who could be endearing while not being a pushover, and who can understand that sense of exasperation
Right.
that life can throw at you. And I just felt Sean had all those qualities, and he ended up portraying me.
Nice. That's awesome. He did an amazing job.
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
really, especially at the end, it really touched me. But you filmed this in 23 days.
So principal photography was 23 days, 682 shots,
Mm-hmm.
which is ambitious for an experienced filmmaker in that amount of time. It was
Yeah, I was
originally
gonna say.
slated for 22 days. We had to add one to the schedule, and then we went back for some drone shots and what they call establishment shots. So I guess all told, it was like 25 or 26 total photography days, which
Mm-hmm.
is a very short shoot.
Right.
But look, I didn't have budget for more.
Right.
That's it, and we shot it all on location in Miami. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
it in Miami Beach, South Beach, Aventura, Coral Gables, all over Miami. So,
Right.
and every shot that I selected actually has special meaning in my life. Every
Mm-hmm.
shot that I chose, my parents and I have actually walked that earth in meaningful moments in our lives.
Right.
And
So
it was actually my parents' real retirement community.
okay. Wow.
So all of the extras were Mordecai and Fella's frenemies.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So was your dad on the set often through the whole
Often.
thing? Yeah.
Every single day.
Every single day. Okay.
Watching me like a hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Added pressure.
look, you're filming out a sequence. So for instance, you have a script, but you might film,
Oh yeah.
pages 72 to 75 on day 3, and then the next day you're on page, 32. So it was hard for him to follow.
Right.
So there's one iconic scene called The Plumber and the Painter, and he's watching Judd Hirsch on stage, but what he's not understanding is the other half that I put together in editing, in post,
Right.
call it, is Sean Astin on a stage of a cigar lounge.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a flashback scene of what took place 35 years earlier.
Right.
So he's only hearing part of it. And at one point, I'm in a creative conversation with Judd. We're having some differences of opinion.
Hmm.
And in the back of the sound stage, there's my father yelling, Marvin's fucking it all up. Craig, there's over 100 cast and crew members on set.
Sure.
And everyone goes silent.
Mm-hmm.
And they just started laughing. And I have to run over to my dad. And now I'm in an argument with my dad. I'm running over to Judd. I'm in an argument with Judd. It was surreal.
Hmm.
But I think it actually added to the, some of the scenes required a sense of frenetic energy. And I think it actually helped. The movie's never static. It's always in motion.
Right.
Mordecai's on this journey, and we're a voyeur into his mind, into his life, and along for the ride.
Did I know the outtakes at the end were fantastic. It gave you a real insight into the relationship there. But did you do like a Stan Lee I just lost the word.
Yep.
Were you in the movie at all? Cameo?
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm Marvin's alter ego in a scene in which Christian Aroa, Eric
Oh,
Espinosa,
okay.
David Babna, Jeff
Gotcha. Yeah.
and Ryan Leeds all join Marvin as his friends and competitors to
Gotcha. Yep.
smoke
Okay.
this cigar blend to see if it's ready or not. And
Right.
that's me right next to Marvin as
Yep.
Marvin's
Okay.
alter ego. Yeah, that was my
Gotcha.
cameo.
Gotcha. Yep. Right. And how about your dad? Did he have any
He's in almost
screen
every
time?
scene in the movie. He's where's
Oh yeah.
There's approximately 15 shots in which my dad's in the background playing
That's
bocce
great.
ball at one point. He's
Okay.
in the phone store in the background with virtual reality headphones.
Oh,
He's in a pool
great.
when they're doing pool jazzercise, doing the
Right.
lip.
Yep.
So, and he's in an art gallery towards the end of the film where Mordecai makes a speech. He's in
Right.
many scenes.
That's awesome.
I had to
That's
keep him
awesome.
occupied on set.
Okay. Right. That makes it more special as the intention of the film.
Yeah.
He's actually in it. Yeah. That's wonderful. Wonderful. I think that's all the movie questions I had thought of. What did I miss? I mean, it was, like I said, it was a great movie, and I enjoyed watching it, and it kind of got to me at the end there. It hit me,
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been an incredible 8-year journey. The film had its world premiere at the Miami Jewish Film Festival last January of 22, where we ended up being winning the Audience Award prize there.
Beautiful.
We won a number of other film festivals, the Prescott International Film Festival. We won Best of the Fest at a film festival, the Milwaukee Film Festival. And we had an incredible festival run. And then we went into the theaters and we debuted February 8th here in Boca Raton, and then February 9th in Aventura. And then we spread out to over 80 theaters. In reality,
and you were doing Q&As at some of those, right?
I was doing as many Q&As as possible. What I failed to realize a lot, Craig, I ended up self-distributing the film with the help of Greenwich Entertainment as my advisors.
Okay.
But I failed to realize in this day and age how much you really need to spend to get the word out.
Sure.
And, at one point, I remember I was watching the Super Bowl, literally a week before the debut of my film. And there is a commercial for the movie Air with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and many others.
Right.
And 30 seconds cost them, what, $8 million?
Mm-hmm.
But now the whole country in 30 seconds knows exactly who they are. And it's, look at the cast. And I said, I really hope I can get the word out.
Right.
I could not get the word out as we expanded to Spokane, Washington, and Virginia, and Grapevine, Texas, and it was impossible. I didn't have the budget, didn't have the expertise. So, I thought we were going to be one of the top films of the year. Call me crazy. But in today's world, you get a second chance. So we're now on Amazon and Apple TV and on your cable box. And for $5, you can rent it and, buy it for like $10 or $11.
And I would recommend people to do that because it's definitely worth the watch.
It's actually like the first few weeks, I was like, what? How many people watched it? I mean, I can fit that many people in my backyard. This is crazy. I don't, but it's starting to pick up. Really starting to pick up. We're now averaging like 10 times what we were averaging a few weeks ago. So somebody's,
nice.
something's happening. So yeah, if would love for you all to get a look at this film. Um, you're not going to find a film that's more personal.
Right.
Steven Spielberg recently made a film called The Fabelmans, which is his biopic. It's about him and his family. And, it's not called the Spielbergs, it's called The Fabelmans. He changed everyone's name because he needed to keep some distance. I didn't know any better. Everyone's name in the film is everyone who, my dad, my wife, myself, my mom. It's all Netta, Marvin, Fell, and Mordecai are in the film.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'll have to watch that one. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a great. Oh, Fabelman's great film. Judd was nominated for the Academy Award for that film as well.
Right. I remember that. So do you see yourself continuing to do something else in this field?
Well,
you got the bug.
I didn't expect to enjoy it this much. And from enjoy, it's not all fun and games. It's not like it's, I'm not playing shortstop for the Yankees here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of hard work.
Well, it's got to be grueling, yeah.
Grueling. But you know what? To be able to see years of your soul on screen, there's nothing like it in the world. And
it's there forever. Yep.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I do have more stories to tell. So I'm writing another script. We'll see what happens.
Awesome.
And yeah, I would like the opportunity to direct another film, but that's not totally in my control at this point. I mostly self-finance this.
Right.
I'm doing that again.
Yeah.
So if a studio or a distributor is interested, I would like the opportunity to do that again.
That's cool. Pivoting quickly to cigars, are you doing anything in the cigar world? Are you still active politically in the cigar world on their behalf?
Look, it's interesting. I learned something that I didn't think was possible. Once I exited Drew Estate, I realized that I could enjoy smoking a cigar every bit as much, in fact, more, than when I was a cigar maker. The industry has changed an awful lot. And I also have 8-year-old twin daughters, Craig.
Right.
And when I look at, many of my friends who began a new chapter in their lives after leaving a company that they either built or were an integral part of building. You look at, my friends like Ernesto Perez Carrillo, who started his company, and Christian Aroa, who started his company, Steve Saka, who started his company, Eric Espinosa. These are all people who I have so much respect for, and I see how hard they've worked to get to where they are as a rebirth, as a second chance at life, so to speak, in the cigar world. And I also know myself. I don't know how to half-ass anything.
Sure.
So if I'm going to get back into the cigar world, it's kind of like when Mike Tyson picked up, went and hit the heavy bag after 15 years of sitting on his ass. And he said the ego woke up. And if I was going to do it again, my fear would be I would just be all in again.
Right.
And I'm going to miss. You got one shot with your children.
That's right. Absolutely. Yep.
And they're 8 years old. I can, I by no means am I sitting at home I'm not the kind of guy who's, out on the golf course. I currently sit on 3 board of directors of companies I've invested in, and I'm helping them grow and scale their companies. I have a direct,
Right.
line to the CEO and to the, and to head management. And I spend a lot of my time in that endeavor, and I enjoy it. Rewarding. So if I was going to get back into cigars, it would have to be under the right circumstances.
Sure.
I don't know yet. And if it was, it would be, look, thankfully, I don't need the money.
Yeah.
So why would I be doing it? And
Right.
I think that there would have to be a major charitable aspect to this.
Right. Right.
So we'll see, Craig. Nothing, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not ready to jump in
Sure.
and start a company from scratch and go travel to, whether it's Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican Republic all the time, and travel the country, cigar lounges, trade shows, build up a distribution network. But on the other hand, there's so many friends that I miss
Sure.
that I haven't seen, and now, some of them I haven't seen in 7 years.
Yeah.
So the answer is, who knows?
Yeah. Well, be a parent to your children. That's the most important thing. I think I heard something along those lines in a movie I saw.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely most important. Wait till they're grown and off to college or done college, and
Which is 12 years. Which, they're in the second grade.
It goes by fast.
It does, but you know what? I'll be 6 when they graduate high school. I'll be 62.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where I am. I mean, right now I'm healthy, I'm strong, but we'll see where I am 10 years from now.
Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
I don't think I think I've exhausted my line of questioning.
Well,
it's been such a pleasure seeing you again, talking to you. We'll have to keep in touch. I appreciate your agent, Mr. Rock, getting us together for this.
Yes, thank you, Matty Rock.
Yeah, good dude. Saw him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, very misunderstood by people. Like, this guy's a genius, and people think he's someone who simply portrays himself as this character, but there's a very deep human being behind that character.
Absolutely. Very cool. Great. Well, I'll let you go. It's get back to your kids. You get a beautiful scene behind you going on there.
Yeah, just in my backyard in Boca Raton.
Nice.
Well,
good.
Thank
you very much.
And if anyone has any follow-up questions, just follow me on Instagram, Marvin Samel, and go to Amazon, iMordecai.
Great, perfect. Hang on with me a second after I shut this down, and we'll chat a little more. Hang on.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Butch.